What's up, Rhino?
How are we doing? Can you hear me okay? I have a little headset plugged in.
You sound a little bit homosexual. Is everything okay?
Nah, I think it's just the phone.
Ah,
I had it in my pocket. It was rubbing against my
You're
pen.
starting to sound a little bit like Michael Tren. You're breaking up.
Yeah. My hair is falling out.
Oh my God! Again? All right, Biggs. Well, I got some blood work back, and then you were nice enough to type up some info. So just wanted to kind of go over some of this stuff with you, and maybe you can kind of give us some reasons why you made some of the suggestions that you made.
Okay.
So, your first thing you said is to donate blood. After looking at my blood work, you suggest I donate blood. What's the reasoning behind that?
Well, first I have to say that I'm not a doctor, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
And you're a proctologist by trade, aren't you?
Yes. I feel overly qualified to help you with this. Actually, my answers to you are going to be what I've learned from my having met with probably more than a dozen different HRT doctors over the last 10 years. Probably somewhere in excess of 150 blood tests that I've done over the last 10 years on a monthly basis.
Damn.
So when I tell you something, it's because generally I've experienced it before, and I'll tell you what I did under the same circumstances.
And it's also because you love me.
That's true. Rather than trying to give you medical advice.
Right.
So, first and foremost, with in terms of the giving blood, I noticed that you had a high hemoglobin and a high red blood cell count. And that's common with people using testosterone. And it's similar to what may occur if a cyclist was using EPO. It increases the red blood cells. The
Right.
problem with that is it can make the blood thick. It's like pumping molasses through the arteries. Very
Right.
effective for moving a lot of oxygen, but long term, you'd have to dump that blood, and that's what most of the cyclists do that use EPO. They dump the blood when they're done competing. And that's as simple as just donating a pint of blood so that your blood can thin a little bit so it's not thick, so it's easier on your heart to pump it. And that's
Right.
an easy solution. And along with that, you can help reduce the iron. You had an elevated iron.
Right.
And that can cause problems as well. So, increased iron can cause increased oxidation of cholesterol, and it can cause liver problems. So we try and keep that iron in the normal range. And donating blood will solve both of those problems. I donate blood pretty regularly, probably every quarter, about every 3 or 4 months. And it really helps keep those levels normal.
In general, why do you think it's such a good idea just for any athlete really to just get their blood work done, even for maybe somebody who's just in their 30s, not somebody who's creeping into the old man age, such as yourself or myself?
Oh yeah, that's paramount. That's huge for performance. I recommend to every athlete I train, regardless of age and regardless of whether or not they use or don't use performance-enhancing drugs, to get a blood test, because it's the only way you can determine what that individual, what deficiencies they may have. People always ask me, what should I take, and whether it's supplements or vitamins or performance-enhancing drugs. And my answer is always the same. What are you deficient in? I talked about this in my rant on blood tests, and it really helps me find areas where someone might be underperforming. And it could be something as simple as magnesium or zinc,
Right.
that you wouldn't realize could have a huge impact if there's a deficiency. I'm not talking about megadosing tons of vitamins. I don't see any benefit in that. The research suggests the contrary. But when you have a deficiency, that can cause all kinds of performance problems.
when we had James Smith out here, he said that, things of this nature, such as, getting blood work done, going to a physical therapist, not just once a week or once a month, but on almost a daily basis. He said it's just cultural deficiency that we have in our country, where people don't treat it the same as they might treat it in other countries, or people don't treat themselves as they should, or treat themselves as a professional, kind of as he says it. And it makes sense. If you want to do well in something and you want to try to put a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of money into something, why not just put that little extra effort in of something like getting your blood work done? It's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but it's not the end of the world. You might as well put in that little extra effort to make sure everything's heading in the right direction, right?
Yeah, and I'm the worst example, because I didn't do most of these things when I was competing in the late 80s and 90s. It wasn't until I got older, when it was forced upon me as a result of running into hurdles with performance, before I started deciding, hey, I need to do more outside the gym, such as the blood test, such as the physical therapy and the rehab and stuff like that. And that obviously helped extend my career, well past what your typical window of opportunity would be.
Yeah, it also helped take you from like a 2050 total to a 2300 plus total, right?
I believe it. I entirely believe it. And I've used this to manipulate my every aspect of my training, diet, and supplementation on a monthly basis, and then to be able to watch what happens, not just for one test, but I would do it on a monthly basis. I know that becomes expensive, but it's it's nothing short of a pathway for you to follow. It just helps tell you exactly what to do.
Here you say to increase salt and water intake to bring AST and ALT down. Nothing else works as well as salt and water for clearing out the kidneys and liver. I've heard you recommend salt, quite a bit lately. What are some of the reasons for that?
Well, in particular to the AST and ALT, is your liver enzymes. Those help detoxify the body. And if you're taking something that is hard for your liver to process, such as performance-enhancing drugs, then you need to do everything you can to help that liver, manage the side effects. The liver also helps break down body fats, bile, so you have a better time maintaining lean body mass, losing fat. It's such an important component. When those liver enzymes get elevated, you start to experience a significant amount of fatigue. You get lethargic. It couldn't be more important. The heavy training and the breaking down of muscle tissue releases enzymes into the body, such as creatinine and BUN. And studies show that people who donate blood have 88% less heart disease than people who don't, and that people who maintain a normal AST ALT level, are subject to a improved immune system. There's just all kinds of variables. So, and I know there's a lot of talk about things you can take, milk thistle and a bunch of other garbage. There's no proof to any of that. It's complete hogwash.
Right.
There's nothing your liver wants more than, to stop putting poison in your body. And if you've, made that measured decision, you've decided that there's a cost-benefit analysis to be had, then B, it wants water. And unfortunately, water by itself can actually have a dehydrating effect by washing out a lot of those minerals and electrolytes. And so if you're going to consume more water and have more water in your system on a consistent basis, it needs a carrier, it needs a catalyst. Sodium's that carrier. And maybe there's some initial water retention, but your body acclimates to that within just 4 to 7 days. And your water balance normalizes. But now you have increased blood volume, which, decreased blood volume as a result of sodium depletion causes thick blood, which is harder to pump. Actually causes more problems than you might think. And this is a recommendation for athletes. A sedentary, overweight, middle-aged or upper middle-aged individual probably shouldn't be sucking down a lot of sodium. But
right.
Athletes who sweat out a lot, who break down a lot of muscle tissue, who have a high workload, some athletes can excrete upwards of 1 to 5 grams an hour of sodium.
Wow.
And if you're not taking in sodium, then your performance starts to suffer again. Your blood thickens, lower blood volume, which decreases the reoxygenation of your system, decreases recovery. Increasing the sodium and water intake increases stamina, endurance, strength. It's nothing short of a miracle. I put this out there. I took a lot of heat for it, but not too many people recommend taking in 10 or 15 grams of sodium a day. I absolutely will, and I'll say it over and over again. If you're taking in a gallon of water, you should take in 10 to 12 grams of sodium.
And does it affect your blood pressure?
No, initially there's going to be a modest blood pressure increase, but it's only 1 point. Even the largest studies suggest that decreasing or increasing sodium has maybe can move your blood pressure 1 point plus or less. It's not significant.
So blood pressure, blood pressure, and even like heart disease, any of this stuff in general is more based upon your overall health than it is like, hey, you're eating abundance of carbohydrates, or you're eating too much saturated fat, or you're eating too much cholesterol, or like any one of those things that's like way out of whack is probably a byproduct of a bunch of other fundamental health problems going on, right?
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. I'm here talking about these little specifics. I'm in the weeds. I'm picking at these specifics, although something like salt can be a huge performance enhancer. But generally speaking, poor health goes up and down with body fat levels and cardiovascular fitness. Those are the premier components of health. I've mentioned in a rant that professors and teachers have conducted a lot of tests where they would eat at McDonald's exclusively for 90 days, but they would only eat 1,800 calories, and they would exercise 40 minutes a day. And they would lose 40 pounds of body weight and improve their cholesterol, their blood sugars, and all of the other health markers. And the same thing was true of the professor who did the 7-Eleven diet, and he just ate Twinkies and 7-Eleven processed food. But he also maintained a calorie deficit by only eating 1,850 calories a day, and he walked for 30 or 40 minutes a day, lost over 30 pounds, decreased his blood sugar, decreased his cholesterol. So while we all talk about superfoods and all these other little, carb timings and, all these other little nuances, really the major component, like you hit on, is if you can maintain a healthy body weight and exercise regularly. There's a lot of leeway for the folks who like, to eat what they want to eat, say if it fits your macros sort of thing.
Right.
If you're exercising and maintaining a reasonable body weight, you're generally going to be much healthier than if you otherwise weren't, regardless of what you eat.
I actually tried to donate blood today, and they told me that I was too fat. My blood pressure was too high. It was 198 over 120. It was through the roof. So I gotta work on that. Any tricks on how I can get past that one?
Well, the biggest one again is going to be your body mass index. People with higher blood pressure tend to carry more body fat, more body weight overall. That's the biggest component to it. Beyond that, it can depend on things that you might be taking for your sport. Some of the worst are the orals or the tren. Those things can cause a pretty significant increase in blood pressure. And cardiovascular health, are you regularly, getting out and walking in the morning or doing some HIIT training, getting your cardiovascular fitness?
I definitely need more of that for sure. Next thing you said is you said this is HA1C, and you said this is of major importance, and you recommended vitamin D, 12,000 IUs of vitamin D3 per day.
Another benefit of taking vitamin D3 it has an inverse relationship to your blood sugar. As it seems that studies will show that as your blood sugars increase, people with high blood sugar tend to have low vitamin D. People with high vitamin D tend to have lower blood sugar. Whether or not it's causation or correlation is still yet to be determined, but I mentioned in my rant from my personal experience that when my vitamin D was low, my hemoglobin A1C was elevated. When I started supplementing 12,000 IUs of vitamin D a day, and as it rose month over month, because it does take time for vitamin D3 to elevate your system, it doesn't happen overnight. It can take weeks or 2 or 3 months. The hemoglobin A1C came down. Insulin sensitivity improves. I'm better at utilizing carbohydrates. My insulin doesn't get elevated as high for as long. Therefore, I'm not as tired or fatigued. Because insulin is such a powerful hormone in the body. It can cause an extraordinary amount of fatigue if your blood sugars stay elevated for an extended period of time. That and exercise, of course, for increasing insulin sensitivity is very helpful. And then from there, there's some smaller options. Obviously, people like to talk about carb backloading or intermittent fasting and stuff like that. But the primary drivers are, again, going to be body fat with respect to blood sugars. As the body fat raises, the incidence of type 2 diabetes are also going to increase.
You mentioned here, everybody knows about your 20 rep sets of squats. Obviously, that's going to get the blood pumping. It's going to get the heart rate going like crazy. But what are the weighted carries doing? They're doing something similar, and why do you feel that? Why do you feel that they get like a weighted carry for some reason is one of the worst movements? Like it just really gets you going. You see a lot of strongman athletes do it, Brian Shaw and guys like that. And it really seems to be a great movement, and it's great that you're promoting it because it'd be great to see more people get into it. Why do you think it's such an effective exercise? It's so simple.
No, I think it's the best. It's because it provides you that HIIT training under load. It does tax your cardiovascular system. It does cause your heart rate to elevate. It allows you time under tension. But one of the most important reasons I think is because you get all the benefits of, say, squatting or deadlifting, or not all of them, but I think it's pretty darn close, without the potential, the same potential for injury. When I train tall athletes, basketball players, etc., I can't necessarily put them under a squat bar. Their mechanics just aren't going to work, and their knees or the back will have problems. But I can put them under a weighted carry and build a lot of strength in the legs, hips, abdominal, core, back. It's a great stabilizer movement for the abdominals and back. Whereas I've mentioned before, I'm not a big believer that you train your core as a flexor. I don't think that sit-ups or hyperextensions is the ideal way to train stability of the core. The core is a stabilizer, and the ideal way to train stabilizers is through something like a weighted carry under load, where the abdominals and the back have to work synergistically to maintain your torso position while you walk. That, to me, is a much more effective, lot less injury-prone way of building strength in the core.
Yeah, there's been world-famous physicians and doctors and stuff that have even suggested a single-arm weighted carry for that very reason that you mentioned, just to helps to even create more. I guess you're getting more instability, but to strengthen your core even further.
Yeah, one arms are great. That hits the obliques for the very same, without having to do those oblique bends or crunches. I'm not a big fan of taking that spine and bending it all around. I don't think that's the solution for core stabilization. It's not what it's ever intended to do.
You mentioned here, some other information about, keeping the insulin sensitivity, improving the insulin sensitivity, and you kind of mentioned carbs before a workout, carbs perhaps for a post-workout, and laying off the carbs throughout the rest of the day pretty much, and then also kind of skipping carbs with breakfast. What's some of the theory behind that?
Well, if you keep pounding your system with carbohydrates every single meal, of course it's going to start resisting that, and that's one of the problems. But again, I think that's down the list. I think that's a minor way to attack the problem. I think that obviously body fat, as we mentioned, is the primary problem. I think the D3 has a huge impact. Obviously, exercise stimulates the cells to be more insulin sensitive. And then after that, there's been some good experimentation with intermittent carbohydrate fasting or intermittent fasting, but I don't think that's ideal for athletes. It's hard now to answer based on the specific individual. I don't like intermittent fasting for athletes. I think it robs them of performance. But if you can get in the carbohydrates that you need, say, before and after workouts or just before bed, and then maybe 3 of the other meals a day, you don't take in any carbs at all, say breakfast in particular. You tend to get up in the morning and eat breakfast, get a carb coma, and end up having to suck down a bunch of caffeine just to get them through the day. Those might be some additional things that you can do, but I wouldn't make it the priority. I would definitely be focusing on the other things first.
And then kind of the next couple things here, you mentioned we got a reading on prolactin, and you said you might feel better if there's a drug you can take to kind of counteract the prolactin. Prolactin levels, I guess, can raise when you take something like Tren or Deca, right?
Absolutely. The nandrolones will cause an increase in prolactin levels. Prolactin can increase erectile dysfunction and impotence, and generally just make you feel kind of lethargic because it's inversely correlated with dopamine. A drug that can be taken to reduce prolactin, one of the things obviously is to eliminate the source of the problem, which is the nandrolone. Secondarily, you take cabergoline, which is a dopamine receptor agonist. And so cabergoline will lower prolactin levels, at the same time increase your libido. And also one of the interesting things about cabergoline, the reason a lot of recreational users like to take this product, is because it decreases the refractory period, the time at which it takes you to recover from ejaculation and have sex again. And so, this is the kind of thing that people are like, oh, tell me more about that one.
Yeah. Are you going to deny that you have stock in this this drug?
Yeah, I sprinkle this on my cereal. I drink it with every glass of water. If you can maintain a hard-on and have multiple ejaculations, and then that's the drug for me.
It's a hell of a day. Next one on the list here, we got estrogen, and I don't know why my estrogen was actually kind of low. I feel very womanly. I have very supple breasts and everything, but I don't take anti-estrogens. You kind of mentioned to me before that you've felt they made you weaker, so I don't fuck with them. So I don't know why the estrogen was not higher. Sorry to disappoint you that I'm not more girly.
Well, no, it's not a big deal. When I see a low estrogen number on a blood test from somebody who's using testosterone, I always am prompted to ask, are you using anti-estrogen?
Right.
And then try and find out, well, what's the reason for using the anti-estrogen? And some people just take it as a matter of course because they don't really understand that there's some benefits to estrogen, and that when powerlifters get their estrogen levels too low by taking these third-generation anti-estrogens, which just about shut estrogen completely down, it's up in the high 90 percentile, they start experiencing weakness and joint problems. And I've seen it so many times over the years. I'm curious as to why more folks don't know about it. Elevated estrogen level isn't necessarily a bad thing when you look at the whole of the blood work, because it's the ratios that are more important than the actual estrogen level. When your testosterone is 1,500, it's probably not a bad thing to have your estrogen at 100. But when your testosterone's 1,500 and your estrogen's at 20, I think there's potential that you're going to lose some strength and have some joint problems. But that often happens to bodybuilders pre-contest who are taking those anti-estrogens because they feel as though that's going to make them drier and harder. And there's some evidence to that, but there's a sacrifice associated with it. So I don't recommend it for performance athletes. Bodybuilding is a little different. Nobody has to perform up there.
Right. So in addition to this, we've talked on the phone, we've texted for years, and you give me a lot of information. How long How long did it take you once you started getting into this, once you started doing some blood work, how long did it take you to start to see some positive results?
Oh, you can do a massive amount in just 30 days when you make some of these adjustments, like things like the vitamin D, the hemoglobin A1C, your AST, ALT, the high hemoglobin and iron. Those things can all be fixed within just about 30 days. You just have to go after them very aggressive. Prolactin, all of that can be fixed almost immediately.
Very cool. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, man. You're the best. You're always a huge help. And there's a reason why there's only one. There's a reason why there's only one picture of one person on the wall. It's the Rhino. It's because you're a legend. And I always appreciate all your help, man. You're the best.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Murray.
All right, man. Later.
Talk to you later.
That guy's an idiot, isn't he? Just to kind of close out, this is something that I'm trying to take very seriously. I'm about to be 40 years old. This is when a lot of people run into a lot of issues. I've been taking stuff since I was 25 years old. I've always been upfront. I've always been honest about it. And I get annoyed when I see the haters making the comments below trying to talk shit. It's just a choice that I made. You may choose to do something different. But either way, a lot of you guys should be getting your blood work done. Not the easiest thing to do, but I think a lot of guys, a lot of lifters probably don't even have a primary care doctor. They probably don't even have anybody that they see or that they consult with. Not everybody has a Rhino in their back pocket that they can communicate with, but it's something I think is worth it. It's something I think that you guys should take advantage of and should try to start to pursue, because you're not just trying to be strong for a day. You're not trying to be strong for a week. You're not trying to be strong for one meet. You're trying to be strong in your entire life, and you're trying to be strong inside the gym and outside the gym. And if you start to lose components and aspects to your health, you're going to lose your strength. You can end up injured. There's a lot of other things that can happen. So keep in mind, as I always say, strength is never a weakness. And that's it from me. Later.